And I have one more book that goes along with the verse in Romans that says, even though he is invisible, we can see who he is in the earth around us. And so this book is called So That's What God Is Like. And it's written by Leanne Hardy and illustrated by Janet Wilson. So that's what God is like. I wonder what we're going to find out about what God is like. Temba was the smallest in his family, except for baby Hannah. So I wonder which one would be Temba. Can you find him? When Temba takes care of the goats with his big brother Sippo, his legs were too short to leap from rock to rock. He had to climb down one and clamber up the next rock. When Mama carried a heavy tin of water on her head to the tiny corn plants in the garden, Temba could only carry a little can. Most of the water would spill on Temba. Oh no, poor Temba. Can you see how his body's getting all wet from the water? It's streaming down his body. I wonder how easy it is to carry a can of water on your head like that. I wonder, maybe you could try that at home. Be sure to ask permission from an adult first. Temba loved to go to church with Granny. Granny could sing with the biggest voice. Temba liked to hear the stories at church from God's book. He loved to hear the pastor talk. The pastor loved the children. He was gentle with them and would tell them stories from God. But sometimes there were things Temba didn't understand. He was too shy to ask his teacher, who was busy with other children. He was too young to bother the pastor, who was so important. He never thought of asking God. God was big, and Temba was little. I wonder, when you have a question, do you ever think of asking God? So he would ask his granny. She read her Bible every day, and she knew so much about God, as much as the teacher at church. Granny, we sing about God and pray to God. What is God like? Temba asked as they walked home from church. What do you think? Granny asked. Is God like the pastor, a wise person who helps people with their problems? Yes, God is a little like the pastor. God knows everything, and God will help you with your problems. There's a little Bible verse here that tells us, that even in the Bible it says, cast all your worries on God because God cares for you and your worries. That reminds me of the book we read about when we're worried about things, and the book was called God Knows. God knows, and so we can give him our worries because he cares for us. But God is not exactly like the pastor, said Granny, because God is not a man. Temba cocked his head and thought hard. God is spirit, said Granny. A hot wind blew across the plain. It shook the leaves on the trees, and Granny had to hold onto her hat. A spirit is like the wind, said Granny. You can't see it, but you know it's there. You can feel it. Temba chased a ball of fluff from the silk cotton tree as it blew down the road. So that's what God is like, said Temba. And there's a Bible verse here that says, the wind blows wherever it pleases. You hear its sound, but you cannot tell where it is coming from or where it is going. So it is with the Spirit. You cannot tell where God is coming from or where he is going. So that's what God is like. Soon they came to a stream. I wonder how God might be like a stream. It was just narrow enough, this stream, to step across without getting wet if you came near the edge and took a very big step onto the wide flat stone in the center. Do you see that stone? Granny said, God is like a firm rock that won't give way, as she took Temba's hand and helped him jump from the stone to the road on the other side. Temba gave his biggest jump and landed with both feet on the gravel. He looked back at his wet footprint on the rock. So that's what God is like, he said. Can you see his footprint? So God is like a firm rock. What does it say in the Bible in Psalms 42? He set my feet on a rock and he gave me a firm place to stand. So how is God like a rock? I wonder. Then Temba and Granny came near their own farm. There was Mama's speckled hen teaching her chicks to scratch outside the thorn bush fence. The mother hen clucked furiously, calling her little ones into the shelter of the thorns. God is like a mother hen who calls her chicks to her and protects them, Granny explained. Temba squatted in the dust close to the hen, and he said, What? So that's what God is like. The Bible verse says, How often have I, God, longed to gather my children together like a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. I wonder, how is God like a mother hen? Sippo, Temba's brother, came into the yard calling excitedly, I found her! I found her! His arms and legs were scratched from thorns and briars, but in his arms he held a tiny goat. Sippo had spent all morning trying to find the baby goat. He was so excited. Granny said, God is like a shepherd who searches everywhere for the lost sheep. God never gives up until the wandering one, the lost one, is safely back home. Tembo carefully touched the scared little goat in Sippo's strong arms. And what did he say? So that's what God is like. And there's a Bible verse that says from Jeremiah 31:10, God will watch over his people like a shepherd. Granny, Temba said, God is like the pastor, the wind, a rock, a hen, and a shepherd. God is like so many things. God must be very big. God is very big indeed, agreed Granny. And God loves the wind, the rocks, the hen, the little chicks, the little babies, the little goats. And she squeezed Temba lightly, and little children. And Temba said, so that's what God is like. I like that picture of Temba at the end. There's no words, but he's just looking. He's looking up at God with wonder, because he's just spent some time looking at the earth and he saw God. So I encourage you today to take some time to go outside and look at the earth and see what you can find out about God. Because he's there. You can find him wherever you look.